Welcome, Slayer the Alchemist, and welcome to another edition of Heavy Thoughts. This is where I take a moment to share with you what's been on my mind. And what I've been thinking about lately is opinions and attitudes that I've had towards metal and hard rock and music in general that have changed over the years. So I have four of them here for you. These are four things that I used to feel or believe in that have changed over time. Okay, two of them are kind of from attitudes that I had when I was really younger and really getting into rock and metal, and the other two are sort of more recent attitude changes that I've had. All right, number one, when I was younger, it had to have a ton of guitar in it. If it wasn't guitar based, I didn't want to hear it. If it had too much keyboards in it, if it had not enough guitar in it, if the guitar wasn't enough at the forefront of the music, I didn't want to have anything to do with it. I was really centered around the guitar had to be the focal point of the music that I listened to. And as I got older, of course, I drifted away from that. And you hear me talk on this channel how I like dark wave music and synth-based stuff and orchestral stuff and jazz and everything like that. But when I first started, like 1980, when I got an AC/DC and Iron Maiden and Black Sabbath, it had to have a lot of guitar. There had to be riffs there. I could not wrap my head around someone like David Bowie, for instance. Let's say like 80s era David Bowie or Gary Newman or something like that, right? I just couldn't wrap my head around that stuff because it didn't have enough guitar in it. But now I can appreciate a lot of this stuff now. You know, my attitude has changed towards it. I can listen to something that sounds really, really heavy and it doesn't really have any guitar in it, or the guitar is not the focal point of the song at all. So I've just sort of learned to just appreciate music for what it is. It doesn't have to be all about the guitar for me. Okay, number two was back then when I was younger, it was metal all the time. I was 100% hard rock, heavy metal. The farthest I would veer out of that would be like the Beatles or classic rock stuff like the Stones and the Beatles and stuff like that. I wasn't listening to anything else. I wasn't listening to new wave. I wasn't listening to reggae or punk or any. It was just hard rock and heavy metal, like the first 8 to 10 years of my listening. And I talk about on the channel how I had the what I call my years away from metal, which sort of lined up with when I graduated from high school and my time in college, basically. And I think part of the reason why I moved away from metal at that time was because that's all I was listening to. I was just obsessed with it. It's all I read about. It's all I talked about. The people, my friends were all into rock and heavy metal. People that I knew that were into other stuff, I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to hear about the Talking Heads or David Bowie or Brian Eno or Gary Newman or the Cars or anything like. I didn't want to know about any of that stuff. It wasn't until later than when I really started to appreciate that stuff. Some of that stuff I liked a little bit, but it really wasn't until later, after I had this break away from metal, that I started to learn to appreciate a lot of different types of music. And I think that contributed to my burnout too, because from like 1980 to 1988, 1989, it's like all I listened to. And back then, this was before the internet, this was before streaming. So my collection was kind of limited. I listened to stuff on college radio and stuff like that, but I was mostly just listening to the stuff I had. So albums like Number of the Beast and Defenders of the Faith and stuff. I mean, I just listened to that stuff millions of times. And 88, 89, I was just kind of tired of it and I needed to listen to some different stuff. I went away to college. I was a music major in college and I had to listen to different stuff. I had to listen to classical and jazz stuff and stuff like that. And it was a good thing. It opened up my horizons. And then when I came back to metal around like 92, 93, I felt sort of refreshed and renewed and I enjoyed coming back to it. Okay, the next two are things that attitude changes, opinions that I had that changed, but they were kind of later. I'm going to say these have been in the last 15 years or so, especially the first one. I don't like violent, sexist type lyrics anymore. I used to not really pay attention to it. It didn't bother me. I didn't think about it. Maybe this is becoming a parent and having a daughter. You become sensitive to these types of things when you hear stuff like it's very demeaning towards women, and very maybe violent overtones towards women, or just in general, extreme gore, extreme violence, like that type of stuff. I never was really into that, but like some of the stuff like around degrading women and stuff like that. When you're a teenage boy, you don't think of these things. You just sort of laugh. You think it's cool. But as I got older, I was kind of like, this is not right. It's not really something I don't want. Again, it's like when you have kids, you start seeing the world in sort of a different way. And I just wasn't comfortable with it anymore. And I can't embrace it. I don't really want, I can't relate to it. Even the extremely violent type lyrics. I've never been somebody like, I've talked about this on the channel. Horror movies that I like tend to be more occult, suspense type movies, Dracula, Frankenstein, that Witchfinder General, stuff like that. So I've never been a big like gore fan, splatter gore, ultra violent type stuff. And as I've gotten older, I like that even less in my music. I really don't like that at all. I just don't. It doesn't appeal to me. I can't relate to it. It's not somewhere that I want to go. I don't want to feel like this. I don't want to think about these stuff. And I know, the world is a violent place and all that stuff. But I just don't want it so upfront and blunt like that. I just don't enjoy it anymore. And I guess it's just something, again, with age. All right, the next one, this has probably been something more, I'm going to say this is in the last like 10 years, is I don't want to say I don't care about sound quality anymore. I'm even going to say this is the last like 5 years. But there was a period in time where I was really like sort of obsessed with like, oh, I got to get the best, turntable. I've got to get the best stereo, and being obsessed with like sound quality. And although I have limits and things that I expect, and if something sounds bad, I'm not gonna enjoy it. But I'm not as picky as I used to be. Now I'm kind of like, it's really easy. If anybody out there, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are into this sort of audiophile side of music. And with the internet, you can go on and you can go to these forums. I'm thinking of the Steve Hoffman forum. General Steve Hoffman was a music producer and mastering engineer and stuff, and he has a forum on the internet, and people get together and they nitpick and they get upset because there's some recent reissue where there's a squeak on the bass drum that they took out, so now it ruins the record. Or it says they're just it's so like they're so obsessed with the sound quality of it, they're just not enjoying the music. And at some point I got to a point where I just said, you know what, I don't want there to be some problem with it. Like, if you hear me talk about the loudness wars on here, that's something I have trouble getting past. But for instance, like with my record collection, I'm a huge Black Sabbath fan, but I only own one version of each record. I have the Warner Brothers versions. That's what I grew up on. Same thing with the Beatles. I have the stereo US versions of the Beatles records. I don't care if the UK version, this pressing from this year with this matrix number, pressed in this plant, cut by this guy, has a slightly better mid-range. I don't care. I've just said I don't want to get so wrapped up in this, because some people get wrapped up in this. They're constantly searching for the best sounding version of a particular record or whatever, and there's just and that's okay if that's your thing. That's cool, and you enjoy that, the hunt for the ultimate sounding record. I don't want to do that. I just want to have fun. It reminds me of when I was younger, when I didn't care about these things. When I got a new Iron Maiden record, I wasn't sitting there going, oh man, there's the hi-hat's a little bright for my taste. I wasn't thinking that. I was just happy to have new Iron Maiden music. And as I get older, I just want to get back to that. I just want to have fun. I don't care if when I'm listening to music in my car, it's an MP3, it's not lossless, or it's... When I have a chance, I have Apple Music. I listen to high-res lossless. I do enjoy that. I do enjoy good audio quality, but I'm not obsessed with it anymore. I just try to remember that it's about having fun. And if I'm thinking too much about the audio side of it, then I'm not having fun with it. I just want to listen to music. I want to have fun. I don't want to get all caught up in, well, if I had different speaker wires or if the humidity was different in my room, the speakers would react different. I don't care. I don't want to go there. I don't want to think about it. It just takes away from enjoying the music. So, okay, there you go. There's 4 things that my attitude has changed. My opinions have changed over the years, things related to heavy metal and hard rock. Let me know what you think of those for me. And what are some for you? What are some things that over the years, beliefs that you've had about hard rock and heavy metal, opinions and attitudes that have changed over the years? So let me know in the comments down below. Till we see you again, make sure you stay heavy, stay metal.